Road Transport Committee. If everyone could please make sure their green buttons are on their microphones. You'll find health and safety message. I think it's all fairly standard. Follow someone who runs fast or earthquake, duck cover and hold. Toilets are down the bottom of the stairs off to the right. And we will open with our karakia. If you'd happily follow along, it would be good.
Te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina piuta, kia mā tara ki tai. Kia I aki ana te atakura, e tio, e uka, e hu, tuturu o weti wakamawa, kia tina, huie, tāki.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the confirmation of the regional transport minutes from the 5th of June. Are there any additions, alterations before we put the recommendation?
A tiny correction, Mr. Chairman. There's a. Oh, I'll have to find it. Sorry. It's inconsequential. It's just a typo. It's no problem.
Okay, thank you.
I will let the secretary know where I'll find it again. Page 9, B. I think it should be investigates blah 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 affected section.
Okay, instead of affect.
That's all. I know it's pedantry, but there you go.
Okay. So with that alteration, I'll put the recommendations on page 5. Take them as read, and that the minutes will be circulated to the councils. Moved by Mayor Volsi, second by Councillor Dynhoven. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? It's carried. Thank you very much. Item 6 on the agenda is the receipt of the minutes of the Regional Transport Advisory Group. And are there any questions with that or alterations? Any queries? Or Fiona? Nothing?
Just if I can, and probably there's not someone here from Plymouth. Just on the page 4, on the council notice to increase resource consent applications as people get updated on the development and financial contribution, removal of parking on site. What's all this about? Harry, can you answer it, or do we? It's on page 13. On the first
council updates.
Council updates.
Removal of on-site parking for new residential developments is expected to increase spillover parking.
If you can't, if we could get it.
I can answer that through you, Chair.
Thank you.
It's mainly to do with resource consent applications now. There's no requirement under the RMA for a development to provide off-street parking. So basically, the road can be used as a car park.
The road can't be used as can't go parking out someone's neighbourhood.
No. It's all to do with the amount of parking spaces available associated with the development.
Then, Chair, just a supplementary. So that really just spills over to the other question, the spillover on parking in adjacent streets. So you're moving it from one to another. So surely that's going to be worse and have safety aspects as well with people walking the streets, etc., etc. It seems to be a sort of a foolish sort of, and I put the here why, I don't know. It seems to be a foolish mission.
I think through you, Chair, I think it's to try and maximise the amount of land value, the amount of land you have available for urban development, rather than using it as a car park. It's dead space otherwise. As a car park. Whereas you could potentially, offices, whatever, commercial development, rather than having it as a car park.
Jason Street might have a Tim Tam in the way.
I think
It just doesn't make sense to me. And then, even like the downturn in the downtown car park, it's not really being utilised. Perhaps everyone's on a bus or on their cycles or walking.
Yep.
Okay.
Could be part of the driving force behind it. Councillor.
Okay. Councillor Donovan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the idea is that we get better utilisation of land area to allow greater infill, and try and encourage people to use public transport rather than the normal thing of households having 3 or 4 vehicles. I think that was the proposed idea. I guess if you look at the different styles of residential development, there's quite a variation, and so this is just one more adding to it.
Okay, so with that, I'll put the...
No, I've got another one if
Oh.
I can.
You can.
Sorry, it's just a query as well. On page 14, item 5 of the NZTA update, the last paragraph on that, the NZTA had raised the limit for the single state business case from 15 to 20 million. I presume they mean the state highways business cases. Can anyone tell me if we've got anything coming forward in a business case? I don't recall. So is it going to have, what effect it's going to have? And 20 million for a business case seems a heck of a lot of money. But if there's any pending business cases, or I know we had the New Plymouth, is that finalised? New Plymouth Hara, etc.
I think Fiona.
Yeah, if I can just clarify that. The limit for a single state business case is if the value of the project is anticipated to be over $1 million, then you can do a single state business case. So a business case lot, less of a heavy upfront. So it basically makes it a little bit easier to
David
receive.
Seymour.
So many hoops between so much easier than
Okay.
and the business case.
So we should see a return on that investment. Okay, good. That's all.
Mr. Chairman, just to help Tom on the previous matter for a moment, the new development of Kaingaora housing on the one-way system is a good example of where the number of residential dwellings and the parking is not as we would normally have expected. So the on-site parking is quite a lot less, which means the surrounding streets have more parked vehicles. That's what that's about.
Okay. No, thanks for that, Harry, clarification.
Okay, so should I please have a move that we receive the unconfirmed minutes of the RTAG meeting? Move Nixon and second Councillor Claypool in favour, please aye. Against? Carried, thank you. Welcome Linda. Linda had a little bit of trouble dialing into us, so she's now zoomed in, so welcome. And I also, my apologies, I forgot to introduce Anne Duncan, who's sitting over the back, is the new policy manager for Regional Council, so welcome Anne. And now we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is item 7, which is the new requirements for temporary traffic management. You'll find from page 17. And Fiona, you're going to introduce this for us.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
So this is an information item regarding changing requirements for temporary traffic management, or TTM, if you want another acronym in your world. The item outlines the role of TTM and provides a brief historical timeline to help understand the current situation. In essence, the country is in the process of moving away from a nationally standardised compliance-based approach, which was known as the Code of Practice for Temporary Traffic Management, or COPTM, if you have heard some of your officers use that. And that's been in place since around 2000. There is now a transition to a risk-based approach through the New Zealand Guide to TTM. This national transition is being accelerated at pace, which creates challenges for smaller local contractors, which is noted in the item, and there's some concerns being raised around the RTAG table regarding that. The request for the committee is simply to note the correspondence received from Waka Kotahi on this matter, and that the Minister of Transport has now mandated that RTAs use the New Zealand guide to TTM as a condition of co-funding. I'm happy to take any questions, Chair, but I also note that this topic forms part of the update from Waka Kotahi later in the agenda, so as Linda and I tend to do, you may like to tag team us on those.
Thank you very much. So if there are any, or whether you
I'm
want
sure
to
I'll
wait until
need to wait.
Linda is presenting, you're happy to wait, Tom? Thank you. We are just receiving it. Councillor Donhoven, you had no?
Just a little bit of irony. Driving here this morning, I passed about 6 million road cones and 2 trucks putting them out or gathering, which is by the Speedway entrance on the northern side of Stratford. I could not believe how many, good morning Linda, I could not believe how many road cones there were for roadworks on a side street. So,
just an anecdotal story, just to go in the opposite direction from Harry. Yesterday, I drove up Brecon Road to the intersection with Pembroke Road, and there was a road marking truck there, marking diamonds and lines on the road. The one lane was closed, the one that I was in. So I drove up to the back of this truck where there was 1 cone. There was a guy on the other side of it painting the road, and a lady who was running around furiously trying to put cones out all around it. We then ran up the middle of the lane that was open, right on the corner. So if you'd come around the corner the other way, she was right there. And I thought, they should have more cones out. So
You've heard that from Mayor Volsky.
and they should have had them out before they started. So
yes.
yeah, it's unbelievable, the extremes that you see.
So they are doomed if they do or don't. So
Yeah.
we want to keep their people safe, though. Ultimately, we want
That's the
to make
whole
sure there
point.
aren't any injuries with people working.
So there can be an overflow, yeah.
Oh, they were probably, all those cones were probably
Mayor
down
Nixon,
here.
and then we'll go on to Linda.
Yep, so just on the bottom of page 22, I'd just like a comment on it, that final paragraph there with the 4 bullet points. The Roading Controlling Authority will be required to provide a quarterly report to NZTA on the number of redundant, i.e. no longer necessary, temporary traffic management sites on local roads. Wouldn't it be better to just get rid of them rather than bug around reporting that, you know, we've now for 3 months got a redundant site there, we don't need it, because that's what's telling me that that's doing. Those sorts of things seem ridiculous to me. If they've finished a job, get rid of them rather than going through paperwork and reporting that they're still there. I would like some comments on that, please.
So we do have Linda who's happy to answer some questions, I'm sure. So pass it over to you, Linda. Welcome.
Thank you, everyone. And sorry, I can't be there in person today. Fiona, are you okay if I just jump in with answering questions and additional info just now? Is that okay?
Oh, absolutely.
Excellent. So I'll deal with that first question from Mayor Nixon first. It's exactly the premise and why that's being required, Mayor Nixon. NZTA as an RCA and also all other RCAs, so our local government partners, are required to now report. But the idea or the premise of that is to ensure that we drive and understand what is happening on the network and that we hold our contractors to account to remove those redundant or traffic management signs, cones that are left in place that are no longer needed. And that is something that NZTA has been doing since just prior to the GPS 2024 coming into effect. And it's a way in which we're monitoring both the percentage of the traffic management that is left in place and actively reducing it, and understand what's going on with our subcontractors and supporting them to lift their performance. So it does form part of the report that RCAs already provide, as is required through the GPS and ministerial expectations on temporary traffic management costs and deployment overall in your network. So it's essentially ensuring that we're all transparent about what we're finding on the network, and also as well working with our subcontractors to ensure that they remove what's no longer needed. And hopefully we'll get into a place where it'll just be standard process and we won't have to both monitor it so closely or report on it. That's the idea.
Thank you, Linda.
Just more broadly on this one, I just want to draw attention to a few parts when it comes to the adoption of the NZGTTM. It was actually first published back in April 2003. So it has been around for quite some time now. And the temporary traffic management, the industry steering group, has been in place over that time, representing RCAs. So there's a number of RCAs that have been members on that steering group. And it does include NZTA and WorkSafe as well, to help both the development of NZG-TTM as well as actually formally landing and publishing the guide for use. COPTM was superseded back in October of 2024. So the industry has had time to both begin to engage with it, to understand the ramifications of it, and then begin to adapt how they're actually deploying traffic management. The critical part here is in the views of the government and our minister, progress has not been as swift as they would like to see, particularly to that earlier point about the efficacy and use of traffic management, and also ensuring that it's risk-based rather than a very standardized approach, regardless of how that risk represents itself. So I do appreciate the comments, and we have also had them with regards to smaller contractors, but just noting my earlier point, this hasn't just landed with them a few weeks ago. There is as well a lot of support that is available through NZTA, but more importantly, the industry steering group. So if any of your contractors are expressing concern, they don't know how to access support, they don't know what support is available to them in their business, super happy to help them with that and to walk alongside them to uptake this. That's not just a Taranaki issue, that's right across the country, I would say. And then just lastly, I don't want to leap into the details of the Health, Safety and Work Act of 2015, but there is a note in the paper that RCAs are not required to sign off temporary traffic management anymore. And I think there's a nuanced component to that. It's not actually correct in how that's being interpreted. We'll not get bogged down in too much of that detail, but just for a bit of reassurance, we all still have to play our roles as PCBUs, so the client, the contractor, PCBU roles, and our procurement processes should ensure that we are all remaining compliant with the Health, Safety and Work Act. And essentially the NZG-TTM ensures that we are, if it is adopted. The role of the RCA, we actually have a key legal duty to permit access onto the road network. And that's through by how we constructively engage with both of those PCBUs when they consult on the risk assessment for doing work on your network. We are required as RCAs to provide feedback on the risks, not the solutions that are deployed to the contracting PCBU. So there's a lot more detail in there, and I know that some of your officers have raised questions about how this should be interpreted. And the one thing from a governance level that I'd just like to leave you with is that this represents probably the most significant change in how we manage activities on our networks that we've seen. And there's a lot of concerns about how that is applied and adopted, and industry's readiness to understand and to take it forward. So I would just come back to the part that there's a lot of support available to help you as an RCA and also your contractors. Gosh, that was a very long answer, sorry.
No, that's fine, thank you. I just noted too on page 19 at the top of it where it was about the not enough time for the small to medium-sized contractors to get up to speed with the new contracts. Does that inhibit, do you think, some of the smaller contractors from being able to put in tenders or come up with the required safety precautions to tender?
I would just note my earlier point that small contractors have had as much opportunity to adopt this as any other contractor. Their capacity and internal ability to go through the learning and development may not be as sizable as, say, the likes of Downers. There absolutely is a lot of support available. So if you do come across any of our small contractors that are struggling, we can certainly provide them with access and support to access that development. So it should not preclude them. It should only, in essence, make it easier for them to become compliant with the Health, Safety and Work Act.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further on that. I'll put the two recommendations from page 17 that we note the new requirements for traffic management. I have a mover, Councillor Dynhoven, seconded by Mayor Nixon. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? It's carried. Thank you very much. Move on to item 8 on the agenda, which is our Lower North Island freight, which you'll find from page 27. And again, we're passing the ball back to Fiona.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Chair. So this item provides an update on collaborative work that's taken place on freight across the Lower North Island, including a presentation of a paper by colleagues of mine at Greater Wellington Regional Council. The item explains the need behind and rationale for a pan-regional approach in this instance, so in essence, the case for change, and it notes, and it notes the signalling of this in our respective midterm RLTP reviews in 2024. I'd like to preface this too by just saying the entire sector's preference would be that this was nationally led and that there was a national strategy in place and evergreen data. That's not been the case, which is why pan-regionally we're having to work together to fill in those gaps, basically. The freight task and associated movements are complex, as are the economics involved. Good data is critical, as we all know, and sadly lacking at present. The benefit can be gained by working together across the Lower North Island, addressing common issues, avoiding duplication of effort and taking a network approach. It also makes good use of the fact that Greater Wellington has an analytics unit, which we certainly do not. The paper outlines a wide range of potential benefits from a more strategic approach to freight, as well as noting the stakeholder partnerships that will be required. It further summarises known knowledge gaps that, if addressed, would improve the evidence base for a pan-regional approach for freight. The request today is to support further inter-regional work in this area. There are 4 options available to the committee, as outlined in Table 4 at paragraph 26. The recommendation from officers is to undertake option 2 of further inter-regional collaboration with potential progression to option 3 of a pan-regional freight strategy. Should support be provided by the committee, the proposed next steps are outlined in paragraph 31. I really want to acknowledge the significant effort undertaken by Greater Wellington staff in leading this work. Happy to take questions, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Cloak, I know you had a little bit to say on this.
It's a pretty in-depth report. I mean, for any freight change at all, doesn't matter what mode it is, it's got to be commercially viable and commercially driven. Having these wonderful ideas may or may not come to something, but to do change, you've got to have all willing parties, and especially the customer. And customers can make that choice at any time. I don't think we should be going any further for our staff to do this. I think we should be looking at the do nothing option. It's sitting there. It's pretty complex, and if we wanted to do something, perhaps we should, this committee should really be looking at the points outlined in the report, which is pretty variable in a lot of situations, and perhaps hold a workshop. The other problem is, there's a tendency to rail, or we don't have a good rail service in or out of the Taranaki province. So whether that's then pushed back onto coastal shipping through air or through some other means, I don't know. But my recommendation for this committee would be do nothing.
Thank you. Any other views?
Yeah, I've got a contrary view, Mr. Chairman. Build it and they will come springs to mind. to simply say that rail is not providing a service, so therefore we shouldn't even consider working with them or encouraging a service to be provided or anything else, means that we will get more examples of the likes of the truckloads of logs going parallel to a railway line every day and driving through the middle of New Plymouth. It does seem to me that this report actually is a reasonably sensible look forward, and that it would be wise of the council to consider the proposals and the factors that this report addresses. So to simply say, no, we're not going to do anything, or we're not going to take any notice of it, and we'll stick with the status quo, we'd still be having horses and carts if every council had had that view through the years. So I think we've got to look at what is possible.
Mayor Volsky.
Just a question first for Fiona, if I can. If we adopt option 2, which is essentially to continue on the same track and look at options and then potentially move forward to number 3, which would allow us to develop those strategies, what is the cost for this council of that, and what's the timeline where you might get to the end of the data gathering information and get to a strategy point?
If I can, Chair, so the detail of how much time that would take, or the resources involved, is not being worked out in detail. So certainly it would be anticipated that the majority of this work is done before the next RLTP.
Right.
And in terms of cost share, no details of that have yet been done at the moment. It's in-kind. Officers are doing the work as they can in their BAU, just with added hats on. And if it is needed that we need additional resourcing to gather that data, then something would be brought back. I can see Mike nodding. So.
That would then give us the choice at what level we went.
I mean, it strikes me on looking through the report, and it is pretty comprehensive what's in there already, but the bit that surprised me most was the fact that there was the lack of information that's generally available about the regional strategies right across the lower North Island and potentially across the country. You know, you would think that there's just a whole lot of transport sources that have just developed in their own way and meandered along and probably been driven by commercial pressures and without an overarching sort of thing. So there's no real clear guide to how you should invest your money in providing networks. So I think there is some merit in continuing on. It's not what Councillor Cloak says, but I think there is. You don't know what you don't know unless you go out there and actually explore that. So I think we should do this and continue on and leave option 3 as an option for us when that data's finally put together.
Thank you. And Linda, I think, had a comment. Linda, to you.
Yeah, just a comment, thinking sort of much further down the line, and I take the variety and the differing points of view on the efficacy of the piece of work. But I would just encourage thinking about what might freight movements look like coming into and out of Taranaki over the next 10 to 30 years, and how might this bit of work, whether it's done as a region or more broadly as is proposed here, help to influence levels of investment, be that into ongoing maintenance, to system level improvements, or into rail, and also as well what support might be available for this bit of work through the port as well. So I do think that there's definitely merit for us as an RTC in thinking much longer term about how we want this freight to travel and to travel efficiently and as smooth as possible out of the region. And I do think that from an investment perspective, a strategy for how we're wanting to achieve that, be it just through our RLTP as normal or something that is more connected, is definitely worth debate and discussion. It would also be really helpful to help inform future GPSs as they come through, and provide, to Mayor Volsky's point, a richer and more definitive source of quality data to back up the level of investment required into this region. So it's just something to think about how we might leverage the work.
Thank you. Mayor Nixon.
Thank you, Chair. I do support looking at option 2, doing some more work on the thing. I mean, it certainly does support a lot of the work that's going on at the moment, like Tutanganui, the freight depot in Manawatu, and what that's growing. I think we need to look at it. I would, support that. Whether it ends up in option 3 is another thing, but I think we need to go there. I totally agree with the comments around the data. If we haven't got the data and don't do some of this, we don't know where we're heading with it. Just a couple of things interest me. When you read the thing, we're talking about 4 districts and a 5th district coming in, and under recommendations, recommendation D notes that consideration of the proposal for inter-regional work on freight is a process going to the regional transport committees. I think that should also say Taranaki is part of it. I realise that we're here now at it and we're discussing it, but I think it should be noted in that recommendation. Excuse me, that it is being discussed at all committees. I'd just like any comment on that as well. And just a metric that did surprise me on page 33, that most of New Zealand's inter-island freight crosses the Cook Strait. I always thought it went the other way. Sorry I'm being sarcastic, but it just seemed an interesting observation in a report that most of our inter-island freight crosses the Cook Strait. Thank you, Chair.
Some of it goes
Oh, sorry, the one
Stewart
thing...
Island too.
Sorry?
Some of it goes to Stewart Island and Great Barrier.
Sorry, the one thing I want to add is that Kiwi Rail has to be at the table as part of these discussions. It is absolutely vital. I mean, have seen a little bit of them in the last couple of years, but that would be huge for this. We cannot have a proper discussion on this or go anywhere without them.
Okay, so with that, are you happy to move the recommendations from page 27?
I am.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Dynhoven, happy to second that. So I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.
I'll support the committee's wishes.
Thank you very much. I knew you would, Tom. You always do.
Beaten into submission.
Option.
Oh, no, it was good. Good
Item 9 on the agenda is the
good to see a
Regional
team
Land
player.
Transport Plan implementation updates from page 96. And in lieu of not having anyone here from New Plymouth, Councillor Dynhoven, I don't know whether you want to... Oh, Fiona wants to give an update on it first, right? Sorry. Fiona.
Thank you, Chair. And usually I do need to dip into this one. And this is simply in addition to this RLTLP and implementation item from the normal 4 council updates. It's just advising the committee that there has been a minor change to the RLTP 2024, and it's outlined in paragraphs 5 to 10 of this item. This is simply the bringing forward of an end-of-life culvert replacement project from the 2027 NLTP into the current funding cycle, due primarily to accelerated deterioration of the asset. The nature of the project means that this does not trigger a formal variation process, so that so the normal template hasn't been brought before you for your consideration. But just to make sure that you're informed of the information and that you're happy with that.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we're more than happy to see that move forward if it's...
Very pragmatic.
If I can add a little to the report, particularly 3, the walking and cycling part of the report, New Plymouth report, it has been extremely controversial, as you've seen in the newspaper, but driven largely by a particular lobby group who a couple of councillors have supported enormously. And there have been many things that have been said in that have been proven later to be inaccurate. And I'll give you just one example. There was a car crash where a car wound up, and there was photos of it in the newspaper, with great comments on Facebook and all the other social media about how it was caused by the car clipping one of the so-called Tim Tams, the concrete separators between the cycleway and the road lane. That was completely and absolutely not factual, even though lots of people believe that to be the cause. Actually, the cause apparently was due to an intention of the driver, if I put that as tactfully as I can. So there's been a lot of controversy, particularly over the concrete separators, which you can see in the drawing there. Some of them are in the photo there. Some of them are twice as wide as the ones shown, the concrete blocks themselves. The problem with the design appears to be, from the point of view of most drivers, they are very reluctant to, if necessary, move their cars over the top of those concrete dividers because they are approximately 150 millimetres high. And that could cause quite a lot of damage to the sump of your car, or indeed suspension if you have a modern car that's reasonably low. So emergency services have been quoted at times as having delays because vehicles can't move out of their way. So there will be some fine-tuning of this as we go along. There have already been some small changes of repositioning of some of the concrete barriers because they have been, in the original design, have proven to be too tight, or motorists have not observed them properly when they're turning into side roads, etc. So there have been already some small changes. The feedback I've had personally from cyclists, and I'm one of the few councillors who does cycle, but the feedback I've had from other cyclists is they really feel a lot safer. But there is one danger for cyclists in them, and we've already had one incident of it, is that it is reasonably easy when you have a concrete barrier 150 millimetres high, if you're not careful, to have a pedal strike and to be tossed off your bicycle. And so that's an element of the design, I think, which needs looking at. When I first saw the proposed design as a normal councillor and not, as Mr. Langford describes, as an amateur roading engineer, I straight away said, why don't we have the plastic dividers that are in place, other places around the district, like outside Town School. But apparently they are quite maintenance intensive and quite expensive. So that's why the concrete dividers were chosen. One of the things that people have not grasped, I think adequately, is that of course this is a state highway and an NZTA funded project. And so as a result, we either did it to the specifications that they put to us, or we didn't do it. So I think it's a safer outcome. Time will tell.
Certainly in the spotlight with the Tim Tams out there, so we'll watch this with interest. Nixon.
Just a comment. We had a online Zoom this morning with emergency services, and the comment from FEMS was a little bit along the lines of what you've just said, Harry, that there's been a lot of negative stuff out there. Whilst they have been slowed down a bit at times, they're not finding any major issues. I don't know if you want to make any other comment on that at all, Neil?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. And the add-on to that was that while it might have slowed them down, they have not had any occasion where they have failed to meet their benchmark response times, which is a very high standard,
Yep.
and they've still achieved that on each occasion.
Yep.
So that was directly from FEMS. Yeah.
Correct.
I'm not sure about the ambulance service.
They were online at the same time and didn't say anything to the contrary.
Okay.
I think the fact still remains that people are still hitting these on a constant basis. we probably haven't seen a new road implementation with so many incidents, and I can't see that ever improving. So
Sorry, you can't see that?
ever improving.
Oh,
So
you don't think people are going to learn that they're there?
we'll just watch the space. Watch the space.
Thank you. Thank you for the update.
I think as Stratford District Council, and I'll stick my neck out and speak for South as well, we're very grateful that New Plymouth's put these here. It's turned out to be quite a distraction during the election campaign. So, thank you, Harry. Yeah.
That it has.
Can I just add that Palmerston North and Wellington have almost precisely the same setup on their cycleways. I would say probably the geography is the difference, and the familiarity of local drivers with them may be a factor too. I think it's likely that if you hit one of these with a tyre, with your vehicle and damage a tyre or a wheel, you're probably not going to do it a second time.
There is a safety review. When's that due out on this?
I think it's beginning around now, because the roading team at council were talking about that last week. So I think it's about to begin. Not sure, Linda may know if it's scheduled.
So we had a safety assessment, team member reviewed the outcome. It was stuff. There was one session of the main concern. So again, this is one of those things where you fine tune it at a time, make sure it's as safe as it can be for all road users. And so that's
Thank you.
There are a
Ms.
couple
Stewart
of
has someone
minor-
as well, so Linda will pass to you.
I just really wanted to make a comment. Thank you, Chair. I know that there is the review and monitoring, and thank you, Lisa, for jumping in on that as well. And that is an important part of these types of projects. But just to a couple of the comments re driver behaviour. This is a kind of well-known phenomenon, and we see it when we put in place median barriers in the state highway, that it takes between 3 to 6 months, even longer in some instances, for regular road users to adapt their behaviour in how they've always driven on that road. And that's why when you initially see things like the way separators or new median barriers going in, initially there'll be quite a sharp peak of let's just say vehicles interacting with those, primarily due to driver behaviour and driver inattention, because they've always driven on this road in this way, and now all of a sudden there's something physically there that requires them to adapt their behaviour. So I do take Councillor Cloak's view. Let's see how this progresses and see how that does change over time. And I understand that there is a commitment to have a look at it and review the outcomes of the ongoing monitoring. I would just like to commend the council, though, New Plymouth District Council, for embracing this. It's not easy to change the form and function and how people have always moved around on a network. And it does take time for people to adapt to how they've always used that part of their network. But I think to Lisa's point, safety for all road users is something that as an RCA we do have to take into account. And there are schools and things along that route too. So just making sure that we provide New Plymouth District Council with support for, trying something like this and then adapting it over time. So, yeah, well done, Councillor Dunhoven.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing further.
Can I just
Yes,
make
certainly.
in addition to this, there was a animated video that came out about how you can drive over things to get out of the way of emergency vehicles. And having personally seen an SUV type vehicle try and drive over them and hit all 4 of them, and that was an SUV vehicle, which is somewhat higher than the standard vehicle. Yeah, I wouldn't be suggesting anyone drives over them unless you're in a truck or bigger. Yeah, if I hadn't seen it myself, yeah, the stories have been abounding, and can't always believe everything you see on Facebook, of course. But that one I saw personally, not a good sounding noise, and my sympathies went out to the driver who gave it a go, I guess, but came up second best.
Stay off the barriers.
Big pardon?
Stay off the barriers is the message.
Yeah, but the animation that did come out originally did say you could do so, and that message might be slightly confusing, misleading.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not safe.
Perhaps the height of it is the issue.
Yeah.
If they were, I mean, the concrete barrier serves a useful purpose, but maybe the design may be just a little bit high.
Hopefully something that will come out of the reviews. Thank you. Nothing further with that. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to South Taranaki District Council, Mr. Lim. And just if you could just make sure these are on, we've got the green button going.
Oh, that one. Is that green?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Colourblind.
Yes. Sometimes you can't tell whether it's green or red, when you're colorblind. That's fine. I think that my short report has been read by everybody. The only report I can see is that the new contract have started pretty well, and every auto contractor embracing using RAM for programming and making their claims, which is great. Some of them never done it before, but they are learning. So they have to learn pretty quick because they're starting to make their claim this month. And yeah, the programming is doing well. We're able to target the works that we want to do because we are doing the programming. And it's quite interesting. In the end of the year, we didn't spend all our budget on local road operation, mostly on the maintenance side of stuff. It could be, one of the reasons could be due to last year we had pretty good weather, so we don't need to do too much of the drainage and cleaning up type of work. Or maybe because we are targeting the right work, so there'll be both. And hopefully by the end of this year, we probably know a bit more better and see how much work we done and how much money we spend. Hopefully it can continue to, use up our funds wisely. And we got a lot of capital work to do this year. Most of them, some of them are the targeted fund. They're all currently being documented and getting prices get done. And we committed with the bridge, so just getting done from Australia. So once they've finished all the component, they're going to ship it over. So that's happening. And other than that, we just soldier on with our flood damage work. Most of the cleanup work has been completed today. And the earlier estimated cost of $800,000 is a bit optimistic. So it is at the moment at about $1.4 million. And there's a few dropout sites that cost a bit more money than we expected, and they are being designed and priced and getting done. So dropout cost is a bit more expensive than just cleanup. So they're all happening. Any others?
Thank you. Are there any questions? Mevolsky.
Just one, thank you. Vincent, just in the photos you've got there on page 110, there's obviously a lot of slips and flooding, and that's similar to what we saw in the Stratford district at that time. Just wonder, I'm just trying to look closely at them. I can't see in any of those that slash was a factor in this damage, forestry slash. Were there sites like that, and to what extent?
Yep. We got some of that, and we just never didn't include that. There's a log jam on Ngawini Road Bridge, which we got done roughly spending about $30,000 doing that, and we also have an old bridge beside the new bridge that got washed away, so that cost another $20,000 to clean up as well. That's on Ngawini Road. And up at Tangohoi, there's a few slashes. I think it was quite good that the regional council staff to come up and helped out, and a couple of the owner were given the notice to clean up some of the slashes. So if they don't, then we can clean up at their cost. Other than that, yeah, there's not that much, but if they do come down, we just clear it. And if we can attribute it to the owner, TRC can help us out to give them the infringement notice, or we can recover costs from them.
Good, it's a good outcome, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Donovan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Vincent, did I understand you to say that you had a bridge coming from Australia?
Yes.
Oh.
That's what we call the Inquit system that they're building. Basically, it is a system where they built all the component, all the steel work with the formwork, and because it come in component, they're gonna ship it in component to New Zealand, and then from there on, we just pick up the component and you do it like a Meccano set and just build it, and then pour concrete over it.
Okay. Sounds like an interesting way to do things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's estimated to be cheaper than the conventional way by a couple of $100,000. So it's worth a trial. We're the first one to do it in New Zealand. So because we're the first,
Taranaki leading the way.
yeah, because we're the first one, they tend to give us a little bit of discount to start off with to show off.
Oh, might be.
Excellent, thank you.
Good.
Move on to Stratford District Council. Mr. Bowden, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Just take my report as read, but it's just a bit of an overall summary for you. We've spent about 90% of the budget overall. There's a few reasons why we didn't spend all of that. Our allocation, some of it was to do with professional services with our colleagues at NZTA doing some of our RAM roughness rating surveys through the CCDC project. So thanks for that, Linda. And Lisa, grand job, carry on. Saves me a few dollars, thank you. So we had a little bit of a delay getting some bridge renewal projects out, and we've just recently let a contract for the replacement or basically most of Buchanan's Bridge, which the Mayor had the pleasure of driving across a few weeks ago when he popped out to see Don for his Citizens Award. So we're basically we'll work on that next week. That contract starts next week. So in essence, we're basically taking it apart and rebuilding it in situ. So that's going to be a fun job to do. So there's a little bit of a summary of what we do typically each month there in that table. Fly tipping, ongoing problems, some months better than others. And then emergency work, same as Vincent, same event. We got hit through quite a significant chunk of the network. Some are worse than others. A lot of it is some slips and bits and pieces which we picked up and cleaned up. So we've spent so far about $450,000 in July, and then there's another $70,000 due this month just to finish it off. And then we've got the ongoing where to from here sort of scenario in terms of what the full-term fix is going to be, long-term fix. So we've got a couple of photographs there of a couple of sites which are a bit of a head scratching going on to try and figure out what to do on those. So we've sort of tentatively I've tentatively submitted a request to NZTA for $2 million for the whole event. So it's broken up into two phases: the clean-up and then the repairs. With the second photograph there on Mangahoo Road, we did call on our colleagues at TRC, so they popped out and put an abatement notice on the landowner. So he's got a bit of cleaning up to do. But we're basically just going to let things try and dry out a little bit before we get too stuck into it. But that's going to be a project comprising of some bank trimming, obviously cleaning up the slash, as well as there's buried in amongst there somewhere will be a retaining wall. But obviously we won't be doing that until we've cleared all the slash and the mud and the dirt out of the way first. So as far as resilience projects, we finished Opunaki Road, so that came in at just under $400,000 to do that, with some little bit of associated drainage works. And we had some targeted funding for some seal widening on Salisbury Road, which, as we all know, is often used as a bit of a detour for any incidents or any planned works on State Highway 3. So that's been supported by NZTA, so thank you for that. So we've done a bit. Year just finished, and we're going to crack on and do another bit this year. So, what else? And finally, the Stratford Safety school project outside the school. That's, although I said in here summer holidays, we're actually starting next week. So that's been awarded to Fulton Hogan. So we're going to be basically building a central refuge. We've got some pavement repairs to do and a reseal on Regan Street. So we want to do that first before we put the roundabout in. It's just easier to reseal the road before we put a roundabout in. Then we come back and bolt the roundabout down. And then there's an island to be put outside by the pool on Portia Street to act as a bit of a crossing point. So it all kicks off on Monday.
Good safety week, thank you.
Thank
Any comments with regard to Mirvolsky?
Yeah, I just draw the attention to the picture on page 115, which is a picture of the Mangahoo Road, and it features an underslip and an overslip on the same site. And if you have a look at the detail of that, amongst the soil there, you'll see that there's piles of slash built into that. And that's what finds its way into waterways. I don't know what's down the bottom of that bank, but I suspect there's a creek of some sort there, and it'll rise at some stage and these logs will end up floating down. The bridge that Steve referred to the other day that I went over is one that it's a problem bridge for us, but there's another one a little further along on the same road, which is well known to a number of us here, McBride's Bridge. I went and stood on that bridge just after the storm. It's probably about 10 metres, I suppose, down to the water level there, this natural water level. But on the bridge was a pile of logs that had been put there the week before from the flooding. That bridge there, we've spent just obscene sums of money on maintaining that bridge for one property. It's the only thing on the other side of the bridge is his house. You couldn't get across to his house because the track on the other side, which he maintains, was so much mud, you just couldn't get up it unless you had a four-wheel drive. So you had to stop at the bridge. But point being that this slash that comes off these hillsides, and eastern Taranaki is littered with sites like this, finds its way into waterways, and then it comes down it causes problems on the road like we see here, and then it gets down the streams and it hits bridges side on, and they're not made to take that sort of stress. The stress is for up and down, not sideways, and then it dislodges the bridges as well, and you're up for another bill. So, you know, I don't know how many times I say this, but it really is a concern, the issue of slash in our region.
I think just following up that, I think the regional council are aware of that, and as you say, when you inform them, they are happy to come out and
I'm pleased to hear that.
and take that
I'm
abatement
really
notice
pleased. So thank you
line
for-
and work with the landowners. So
Yeah, thank you.
good positive move with that.
Just following on from that, I was talking to Minister of Forestry and Agriculture, Todd McLeay, the other day when he was in the district, and talked about slash, among other things, in review. And he came back and talked about slash, and no, it's nowhere near the problem everyone thinks it is. And really? So yeah, I was very, very surprised by that comment from him. And so if we've got, you know, a view like that coming from the minister, it certainly makes it tough for it. Just the other comment from me, page 116, I just want to commend Stratford District Council. 2 photos there of roadworks and innovative use of a digger bucket to protect the site. Not one cone in sight, and nothing reported of any injuries to any road workers. So well done, there's good savings there.
Thank you. No further comments with that.
What's your point?
The savings that you've made without spending a lot of money.
We'll take that. Well done, Steve.
It's a big difference.
Move on to the PRC report on public transport. And Ms. Gasly, Cheryl, come and take a seat up at the table and tell us how public transport's going in Thames.
Kia ora. I just wanted to take the opportunity to give you a bit of a review of the year we've had. It's been interesting and a bit bumpy. So you'll see in my report, and thank you to Fee and the policy team, we've completed the mid-year midterm review of the RLTP, and of course we completed the single stage business case, all covering improvements that we'd like to see staged over the next couple of years. Procurement is complete for both urban and regional services, and that contract starts on the 6th of April. We have a full rebrand underway, shaped by public feedback. We have a new user-friendly website, and we're slowly working through procurement for that, and that's going to give us a much-needed journey planner to assist our passengers. We've met our private share expectations. We've implemented a fare increase whilst maintaining concessions for you, Super Gold, and the much-needed Community Connect. We have established a regional PT committee, which will work toward better aligning our transport needs. We've seen steady patronage with regional growth, which is exciting, and we've had targeted service improvements. The total mobility scheme continues to expand, which helps us to improve accessibility to transport for people with impairments. And yes, and then looking ahead, we have the new network to get rolling. You'll see that is in another report today. And of course, we'll continue to work through co-funding challenges. Happy to take any questions.
I just have a brief one, and thank you very much for working well on the total mobility in Stratford.
Yes.
Good service that we needed here and we were lacking.
Thank you,
so on behalf of the people of Stratford, thank you to Regional Transport. It's good to see that up and running and providing a service that was required in this town. So thank you. And Councillor Clerk.
Have you had much feedback on the rebanding submissions? Have you had many submissions on that?
Through you, Chair, that's gone quiet.
Did you not get any?
Oh, we did previously, but we haven't.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, so where's the feedback on that? Are we getting a report on the feedback on what people are concerned about or not?
Through you, Chair, I think we've covered off the main points there. Mike, do you have?
You note in your report there, Chair, that you were intending to bring the feedback on that rebrand through Council in September 2025, page 118 of the agenda. So it's still to come, Chair.
Okay, yeah, that's right. And just want to thank you to Cheryl for the some bad parking of buses that are not in use, and you attended to that very, very quickly. So the public that spoke to me about it were very impressed with your quickness. So a personal thank you for that.
Thank you, Chair. Just through you, thanks for the report, Cheryl. Good to see what's happened in the year. Question from me, what is the cost of a full rebrand?
Through you, Chair, at this time we have a budget of 50k, which we are.
And Chair, the important thing to note that is 50-50 51% funded by far through Waka Kotahi, so the cost of the council.
Oh, so it's not a full cost to council?
No.
So of the 50,000 that you've budgeted, that's what's TRC spending, or that's what the whole project is?
Yeah, my apologies. Mike's right. That's the whole project, but there is the funding.
Okay.
And Chair, if there's additional costs in rebanding buses, we'll do that as we roll out services and over a time period. We're not intending to bulk spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or anything like that on day one.
Very good.
Ms. Stewart, Linda.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Just like to acknowledge the work of the TRC team and the council on the private share targets. and just reinforce and draw everyone's attention to the fact that the private share targets for the Taranaki region were met for 25-26. We really appreciate your willingness to work with us on those expectations as per the GPS, and as well acknowledge that it wasn't always straightforward or easy, especially when you are driving hard to increase patronage. So just really want to take the time to publicly say done on hitting those private share targets, and thank you for your willingness to work with us on those. Ka pai.
Thank you. Councillor Donovan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want to thank Cheryl and her team for the several iterations of work on the high-frequency trial that was proposed for New Plymouth, and we've got a report later on which will go into that in public excluded, but we really appreciate the additional work that created for you and the number of times we went and looked at different possibilities. So hopefully we'll get there. Thank you.
Recommendations, Chair?
Before you do, I just have one more thing. It was on item 9, which was actually the operation budget forecast, where there's a variance of 36% above budget, and I know you're going to have listed what gains and contributions you would need, but I think you'll also have to keep in mind the cost of ratepayers and the pressure on us to keep rates down.
It's in the public excluded. The agenda. We haven't come to that point. Okay, matter.
Sorry, I'll bring that up later. Thank you.
Actually, before I move it, can we just get any updates from the police and see in this up in the updates?
In regards to?
Well,
You finished with the public transport with Cheryl, so thank you very much, Cheryl. And
So the
anything
best
from the
perspective
police?
of what we're doing at the moment?
yeah, well, just in the
Any updates or things that you'd like to bring to our committee?
We normally get just if anything you've got to add.
Right, yeah. Well, my team's still actively patrolling around roadwork sites and what have you, showing presence and trying to keep people safe out there. Our target, big four for us are restraints, impairments, distractions being cell phones and speed. And you've probably seen us doing checkpoints regularly around the area, New Plymouth and South Taranaki, every month. We're getting the normal office workers out of the office to assist with those. Those are what we're calling Operation Ethos, which is just a cell phone seatbelt campaign. The latest one that we did, something like about 55 cell phone offences detected in short time. Seatbelts, not as many. It used to be the other way around. Massive seatbelt numbers, few cell phones, but the cell phone does seem to have taken over everyone these days. And old habits are forming, I guess. When it comes to speed, the tolerance level that used to be around 10 k's or whatever it is out the window, it's gone. We're expected to deal with speeds from 7 kilometres plus. Camera vans might be set at slightly lower rates at around certain schools or holiday periods. The traffic division that used to be, that is based at New Plymouth, and the highway branch. It used to be kind of separate, but now the traffic division is expected to do 80% of their work out on the highway network. The other 20% is them and the other section staff, general duties that respond to the burglaries, the thefts, domestics, what have you. They're expected to do their part, but the biggest harm is out on the highways because of the big speeds. There is a rough expectation that 1 in 6 speeding tickets should be in that 7 to 10 bracket for us. And having seen figures from Hamilton, who used to be in the newspapers for all the wrong reasons with their fatals, they were very good at getting into the 7 to 10 bracket, and the high visibility part, I guess, is playing on people passing by. Their death rates dropped, and everyone else now seeing those results and picking up on it. And, last year, Central District region at least, quite well with the figures that we were expected to produce. The fatals aspect, we have not had a great year. It started off terribly. Currently sitting at 9 for the Taranaki area, I'm only referring to, for this year, from the 1st of January onward. Bearing in mind we've still got another 3+ months to go. And of those 9, I've been to 5 of them personally. No real rhyme or reason behind any of it. One was a car versus camper van, a fully licensed driver being taught how to drive a manual. His rear passenger was killed possibly because he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. The 2 in the front were fine. We had a truck versus truck on Egmont Road. One has crossed the centre line for unexplained reasons. No cell phone involvement. We'll never know why that occurred. Truck versus a pedestrian. No fault on the truck driver's part at all. He was already well under the speed limit and slowing well in advance. And the gap, I guess, was just misjudged by the pedestrian. I'll just go back to the camper van one. Yeah, so that person actually crossed the centre line into the path of the camper van, so that one's pending prosecution. We had a quad bike rollover for no obvious apparent reasons on a gravel road. Single vehicle only. We had the 2 tourists that were killed in a crash at Onairo. Crossed the centre line into the path of an oncoming big truck, 40-tonne truck trailer unit. A witness there spoke of the front passenger in the car reaching over to grab the steering wheel, but not enough time. So we suspect fatigue, but again, we'll never know. There was a car versus bicycle on Powderham Street. Cars just failed to give way to the cyclist at a stop sign. Heard a noise, didn't realise even at that point what had happened, just noticed people rushing to assist. That's prosecution pending. We had a 2-car head-on in Mimi. There was a car load of young folk who had been down for Easter attending a Christian surf camp at Okura, so we suspect fatigue on that one, possibly being out for a surf that day and returned to Auckland. Oncoming passenger was unfortunately killed in that one. We also had another truck versus car in the Awakino Gorge. The car driver entirely at fault. Dash cam footage clearly shows speed on a wet road, losing control. He'd been involved in a fleeing driver incident further up the North Island earlier that night into the morning. Been up all morning, borrowed a car from people that only just met that morning. Meth and drugs in the system, so all the wrong things went there. And the other one was a car versus power pole with a young fella area heading towards Manaia, I think it is, Livingston. Yep. Just gone through some small wooden barrier on a easy bend, through that into a hedge to the power pole. The vehicle then caught fire. Trees have come as a result of the fire. There was another one in Hawara just the other Saturday, I believe. but we suspect that's a medical, so whether or not that's going to feature. So of the 9 crashes with 10 fatalities, 6 of those involve more than one vehicle. 4 involve an HMV, and only one of those drivers was at fault, was the one on Egmont Road. The other 3, no fault suspected at all on the car. Cyclists, yeah. Some we don't know if seatbelts were effective or not. Some we suspect that to be the case, but the damage to the vehicles and also people, it was possible to tell. We also just recently, 2 days ago in fact, a courier post driver had a crash on Frankie Road, just drifted off the road into the ditch, travelled along there for about 30-40 metres before trying then to take positive action to correct what he'd already done wrong. Has lost control, gone across the road into the opposite ditch and just fallen onto his side. He had a person in the back compartment, unrestrained, no seat, intoxicated. He received injuries from the parcels and packages, giving him a hiding as they rolled around. That wasn't so bad. The driver himself, not wearing a seatbelt. There may be an exemption for courier drivers, however, he's headbutted the windscreen but came out fairly well, but blew 730 for excess breath alcohol and has elected blood. But the worst part was his 3-year-old child was in the front seat, totally unrestrained of any sort. And the child is currently up at Starship with suspected brain injuries. Charges clearly pending there. The child was not expected to survive on the day, but I believe the prognosis has improved. But fairly concerning for a courier driver with those behaviours. Would appear to have stopped off for a liquid lunch as opposed to consuming alcohol on the journey. Completely avoided all 3 being injured, to be clear. Been to a few crashes with couriers who know of their exemption. They've changed their ideas as a result, direct result, because they've come out of it relatively, well, not pain free, shall we say, so they've learnt a lesson kind of thing. But I know the couriers do get in and out of their vehicles all the time, often enough, but I'm not sure why the exemption exists, to be clear. It's not something I would do. We get in and out of our cars all the time. Don't go there.
Any airbags?
There was a wooden panel which placed across the dashboard area, and the commercial vehicle safety team investigator that arrived to deal with those aspects did say that it's a bit of a common thing that the couriers do to prevent airbags from deploying, which surprised me. I didn't think that would stop the airbags from deploying. I thought they would still go off, but then turn that panel into a missile. But I'm no expert on that field. I don't fully understand how that would work. But it seems to be a common thing that they are finding in their stops with commercial vehicles. Other than that, I think there are older figures from throughout the last 5 years or so, but we're already at levels matching our worst year for those last 5 or 6 years. So, fingers crossed.
I don't think I'll ask you for a report again.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I don't think I'll ask you for a report again.
Yeah, I thank you for your work, and I appreciate how quiet the room went listening to some of those tales of what happens with people doing silly things amongst other stuff on the road. So the message out there is, yeah.
I'll move the recommendations, including the police report.
Thank you. Well, the new recommendation will add item F, which notes the verbal update from the New Zealand Police. We'll add that in as well. Moved by Councillor Cope, seconded by Councillor Dynhoven. All those in favour, please, aye. Aye. Gary, thank you very much. Thank you. We'll move on to the next item, item 10 on the agenda, which is the NZTA Waka Kotahi update. You'll find from page 122. And with that, I'm passing that over to Linda, who's changed the screen, is going to give us her update. Over to you, Linda.
Just amazed myself at my ability to use technology. Thank you.
Very good.
You'll note that there's a bit of a change in format, but I'll still just speak to the front part of the slides, but happy to take questions on anything that's now contained in more detail in the appendices. We've covered quite a bit of it as well, so that's great with the kind of substantive national update being around the NZG TTM. So we'll skip through the slides, national first, then regional, and take some questions. Now I'm feeling I can't get the slides.
Thank you.
There we go. So just a heads up, we are beginning already collectively the planning for the next NLTP for 27 to 30. The first part of that is just releasing the new evidence packs, which are a detailed look at the investment and economic, social and cultural opportunities that exist within the region, and getting some feedback from RCA on those. But just a bit of a calendar of timeline that we'll all be working towards in submission to the next NLTP period. The Road Efficiency Group, and for those that headed along to the Local Government New Zealand conference earlier in the year, may have attended one of the updates here. Your RCA chief executives will also have received a letter and some information on the new dashboard and data and insights that are now made available. This is a really, really useful and user-friendly way for your officers to provide you with an update on the asset management and the state of your assets. So it looks at key network performance metrics, and it also allows you to benchmark yourself against peer RCAs as well to see how you are performing against your peers. It does look at things like your network specifics, your population that you serve, the total roads that you've got, as well as roughness, etc. So it's just another good way for us actually to become more mature collectively in how we measure, monitor and report on our asset management together. Maintenance, big season last season, and we're expecting right across the country for it to be a similar size. So we will be really focusing on rebuild alongside the usual programme of reseals. And rebuilding focuses to continue the work that we've been doing to lift the overall performance and quality of the state highway assets right across the MOTU. At the moment, as well as our work on maintaining the assets over winter, we are beginning programming for the 25-26 construction season. And also as well for us, the full adoption through all of our existing NOC contracts of the NZG TTM by 1 September. I don't think that we need to dwell on this further, but happy to take any further questions that there might be at the end on that. But just to note, as well as the reporting around the adoption of NZG TTM, some RCAs also have another requirement, a ministerial requirement, under the forward works planning. In the Taranaki region, this is only applicable to New Plymouth District Council, who do subscribe to and publish their forward works programme already. The main part here is to ensure that we continue, for those councils that do this, that they continue to publish that. And the primary reason is that particularly for all types of utilities and works across the state highway network, it provides a transparent view for all of those parties as to what's happening when. So the ultimate aim is to provide greater coordination and ideally efficiency and value for money of these activities and how we state highway network. Setting of speed limits and the state highway speed management approach. A couple of updates here for you to be aware of. We have 22 schools across the Taranaki region that will be being treated, if you like, their speeds by variable speed limits, and they will all be in place prior to Christmas of this year. So we're just moving through the design process for those and how we program the implementation and physical works of them. So that's one part good news. I think Taranaki's the first region off the mark in the Central North Island for me. And then secondly, and there is a little bit of detail in this in the detailed part of the presentation pack, we do and will be coming out for consultation on 2 speed reviews in your region. The first one being on State Highway 3, which takes into account the Egmont Road intersection. And consultation on that is due to commence on the 29th of August. The second speed review that we'll be undertaking is State Highway 3 in Hawera, and that's to take into account their growing and developing commercial and industrial development. And the consultation for that is due to start on the 15th of September. We will make sure that both RTC members, but also as well councils are aware of when the consultation is starting, and hopefully as well we can garner some support to promote that consultation right across the communities. We'll jump into a quick regional update. Just a couple of pieces to draw your attention to in here. O Te Ara to Waitara to Bell Block. Good progress being made. We're currently working closely with New Plymouth District Council on the State Highway 3 de Havilland and Airport Drive roundabout and improvements. We are expecting that contractor to be awarded and appointed in October of this year. We are as well working with New Plymouth District Council to see what efficiencies we can gain through that procurement process for their local road improvements as well, which is great. So thank you to New Plymouth District Council for working with us on that. Te Ara o Te Ata, Mount Messenger. Hopefully you've all been following the great videos that have been out of the progress on the tunnelling, and as well the staging bridge for the first bridge on that project and its completion. The staging bridge just helps them actually access to put in place the permanent structure. So work has continued well over the course of winter, but the team are very keen to get the bulk earthworks back underway once the weather improves. You'll probably be well aware that the Mangere roundabout on the safety improvement project is almost complete. So the final snagging, planting and drainage will be done by the end of the year, and the Junction Street work intersection work is complete. Yeah, I think the others are fairly straightforward, so I might jump on. Just a quick touch on what you can expect coming up for next season on maintenance of the network. So it is another substantial season, which is good, but also as well appreciate your support that it is very disruptive for your communities as well as road users right across the region. We'll keep you informed once that program is fully confirmed and work with you on how that's going to get rolled out across the region. Just an additional or a new slide, and this is to help us provide a little bit more visibility as how we're tracking on our partnership with local government and with RCAs on investment. And I know that it's complementary to the updates that each RCA already provide. But it's another way for us to just ensure that we do have visibility over how we're tracking together on levels of investment and spend. So just on this first one, just to make it super clear as to what we're looking at here, down the left-hand side are the activity classes. The big, long, light blue, yellow, light blue bar, sorry, is the total allocation, baseline allocation for that activity class over the 24 to 27 NLTP. The blue, dark blue box is what's been spent to date. And then the hashed, like the hash blue box, is the spend that would be required to fully claim that allocation by the end of the 24-27. So let's say a good example would be on the safety, there's very little of a hash blue box. So completely on track to use up all that allocation 24 to 27. Whereas on the walking and cycling improvements, you can see that we're a bit behind on spend in that activity class to make sure that we use that full allocation in 24-27. The rationale for that, and I guess for us it's a bit exception reporting, is where we see that kind of larger hashed section. Why is that? Is there anything that we need to do collectively to mitigate that? And for this one, this is the walking and cycling path that New Plymouth District Council are constructing. They've kept us fully informed of how that's progressing, and there are some matters relating to property that they're working through. So they've just been a little bit behind on the forecasted spend in this year, but really appreciate the work with council officers to just track that, keep the open dialogue so that we're all aware of what is happening on those projects. And I think that's all from me. That was quite succinct for once, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions, Councillor? Councillor Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Linda, the property acquisition on Te Aroteata, now Messenger, are we there yet? I understand the courts have made a final decision, but I believe there's some sort of appeal still being talked about.
Yeah, we received in mid-July a ruling in favour, well, 4 rulings in favour of NZTA. One of those is on the critical path for the project. There's another that's more broadly of interest about property negotiations for all infrastructure. But specifically for Mount Messenger, we were successful in the High Court ruling. There has been a leave for appeal on that ruling on a point of law, and that was submitted to the courts. We have provided our affidavit and had a look through that, the leave to appeal, and provided our information to the court, and sought urgency from the High Court on their final decision on the leave to appeal for point of law, which we're awaiting.
Just to follow up on that, Linda, you talked about the summer program coming. So if the land is not available, that's going to have a serious effect on what can be achieved during the summer this year, this coming construction season. Because everything else seems to be basically up to date, and you really desperately need to get into the other side.
You're absolutely right, Councillor Cloak, and that's something that the project team have been actively managing in what can they do on both the northern and the southern side to keep the project on track, both on the structures and also the earthworks. We do have a few key dates that the team are working towards, but if we're not getting a decision towards this side of Christmas, there could potentially be further delays overall to the programme. Quite right.
Thank you. Councillor Donham?
No, Thank you, Linda.
Just a bit more to I was going to talk about the land acquisition, but I'm getting very good feedback on the roundabout at Mangere Road. That seems to be working very well from all users. Whereabouts are we up to with the design for 33A intersection? You talked about D'Avalon, which is going ahead. So what about the 33A, and is that also likely to be, because of the number of heavy, longer vehicles using that area, is that likely to be a double lane roundabout?
Well, I know that we're currently moving through the detailed design for 33A. I have not seen what that detailed design is yet, Councillor Cloak. And then that will go through our internal processes to seek the additional funding required to complete that 33A. But I know that the detailed design is currently happening. So we can certainly come back to you directly on that once we've got it.
Thank you.
No problem.
Nothing further. I take it not. Thank you very much for your presentation, Linda. Much appreciated as always. The recommendations on page 122 that receive the updates, etc. Councillor Cloak will move it and I'll second it. So all those in favour, please say aye. Against. Just before we move into public excluded, I take this opportunity to thank management and staff for their work for this Road Transport Committee. It will be a very different committee come after elections. Councillor Dienhoven, you will be missed around this table. I think 15 years has been this stint, and prior to that I can remember you when I was representing the bus and coach 20 odd years ago, so you've certainly done your penance with this committee. And also from the elections, we don't really know who will be sitting around the table, but thank you very much to the staff and the management for the work you do towards us, and everyone else for their input. So again, thank you all very much. It's appreciated.
Well said.
So with that, we'll move into
I'll move, Chair.
public excluded. Move Councillor Cloak, seconded by Councillor Dienhoven. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
And we'll just wait a minute, and those on the Zoom and live feeds will be removed. Thank you, Linda. I think you.
No, she's
you're staying.
She stays.
Yeah, good. Thank you.